وكلا نقص عليك من أنباء الرسل ما نثبت به فؤادك وجاءك في هذه الحق وموعظة وذكرى للمؤمنين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, we are starting again with our durus on the Prophets alayhimu salatu wasalam, and we have reached a new prophet, and that is the Prophet Hud alayhi salam, who was sent to the people of Ad. So after Nuh alayhi salam, after the demise of Nuh alayhi salam, he had children who had children, and later on came these people. Their actual lineage I'll give you inshallah next week or some other week. But these people, they were there's two qawms, there's two types of people here. One is that Allah created from His immediate progeny in the 4th or 5th generation of Nuh alayhi salam. He created the people of Ad. And another one is that He created the people of Thamud. Both of them, Allah gave them a lot of power, He gave them wealth, He gave them might, He gave them strength, and He made them giants. He made them giants. And they lived in the Arabian lands. So as for the one that we're going to do today, and start off today, because it will go on for a few weeks inshallah, and both of them will go on for a few weeks. But as for the one that we're doing today, of Qawm Ad, the people of Ad, they were based in Ahqaf, a place called Ahqaf. Ahqaf is a place between Yemen and Umman. Yemen and Umman, this is what the historians have said, that's where Ahqaf is. The word Ahqaf has appeared in the Quran, in Surah Ahqaf. The surah itself is Surah Ahqaf, Surah number 46, ayah number 21. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَاذْكُرْ أَخَا عَادٍ. Remember Ad's brother, Hud alayhi salam. Remember him, إِذْ أَنذَرَ قَوْمَهُ بِالْأَحْقَافِ, when he warned his people at a place called Ahqaf. Now, what's amazing about this is that why Allah is mentioning these stories in the Quran and why they're going to stay till the Day of Judgment is because they were within the same place where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came. So Yemen is not very far from where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam started. So one's in the south of where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, and this is the one that we're doing, and the other one, Thamud, is in the north, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he even passed by them, but by their territories, when off to in the battle of Tabuk, or when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went in the latter part of his life. We'll cover this inshallah later on. But he told his companions to quickly pass by, because these are the ruins of those people. Now the one that is in the south, which we're covering now, which is between Yemen and Umman, this place Ahqaf. The other significance is that this place is in a place where the Arabs would retreat. So they had two retreats. They had one retreat in the summer. When it got too hot, they traveled towards the south, and this was the place they would try and travel. And this was part of the trade route. And the other one was when it came to the winter time, they would want some more warmth, so they would travel slightly up north, and they would go to Sham or Syria, and that's where the second, the Thamud was based. And saying this, it was directly to the people around the Prophet ﷺ's time to understand what Allah had done to these people and what they had said, and the fact that the people coming after them have said similar things. Now, what is really important here is for us to understand, because some people have brought up and they've said, these old stories in the Quran, we should replace them with other stories. There are people across the world who've said that. What is really important is from Allah's perspective is that none of these people have changed. So the things, the accusations they're making, the types of accusations they're making are the same accusations that have been made from the old time, from Nuh alayhi salam's time till today. And until the day of judgment, the same things will be said. So some people, they get hyped up. Why is it that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, why is it that they're saying all these horrible things about him? Well, this is what they did to Sayyidina Nuh. And they did, you find out to Ad. The people of Ad did to Sayyidina Hud, the people of Ad did to Sayyidina Hud. And Sayyidina Salih, again, he faced the same thing. And every prophet that came, they faced they faced a community of people who ridiculed them and who said things about them on their face. The thing that we need to learn from this is, not only there is an established pattern, there's an established pattern between the people of batil. The people of batil and the people of falsehood, there's an established pattern. And they will behave in a certain way when truth comes to them. And you will see in all the stories that we're covering, you will see this pattern emerging. But what's also important is, there's an established pattern for the people of truth. So if we regard ourselves to be the people of haqq and truth, we've got to also understand that we've got to follow the seer of the anbiya, we've got to follow the ways of the prophets. Which is that when you're ridiculed, you've got to have a way to respond to that. You can't put ridicule to ridicule, you can't put mockery to mockery. Somebody says something bad to you because you went and gave da'wah to them, then you say, what do you know, you this, you that, whatever, You can't do that, because then you're not following the established pattern that Allah has given for the people of the truth. And that wouldn't be right. So, these people, Allah had blessed them, and they were people not only mighty and they had a lot of strength, but they built many different monuments. And they were builders, and they were masons, if you want to put it that way. And those people who have, craftsmen, or those people who know how to make nice buildings, they become popular by others. Now you've got to understand the psychology behind this. Whenever you get a people who are needed by others, the more of a need that is created, the greater they become in the sight of people. So for example, if you need a tailor to stitch you clothing, that is, a need that is created, and everyone's got certain needs in the society. So you will go to the tailor whenever you need, clothes stitched. Now that is a common need. There'll be many tailors out there. Just like if you need someone to, give you a pair of shoes, sell you a pair of shoes, there are shoe shops all around, the town. So you can go to so many. There is a need, but it's a common need. When that need becomes greater because not so many people are available doing that job, these people naturally get credit in the society, and they get a status. People credit them and they give them a high status. So for example, now having doctors or dentists and others, because they're so few, their demand is higher. But above that, you've got specialists. So you've got brain specialists, you've got heart specialists, and their demand is going to be on a higher level, and their need and necessities on a higher level. Then you will have like one extreme specialist in one part of the brain or one part of the heart, and his need and necessity will go even higher. So the point here is that when you've got builders, they are one type. Builders, they all build fine. But these were not common builders. There were people who built on high places, and they built buildings that were very strong, they were very beautiful, they were admirable. Now, when a builder gets to that level, that they can create buildings that others find admiring, then their popularity has gone way beyond the average builder. And that is something that Allah Azza wa Jal points to when He says in the Qur'an, He says that this is in Surah Ash-Shu'ara, ayah number 128 to 135. This is Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam telling them and saying, أَتَبْنُونَ بِكُلِّ رِيعٍ آيَةً تَعْبَثُونَ. what, on every single high place you're going to build a monument that you take as a means of entertainment or showing people what you can actually do. You're showing off your skills. وَتَتَّخِذُونَ مَصَانِعَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَخْلُدُونَ. And not only were they building monuments, but they were building great places that were almost like a fortress. They were like a fortress. And these fortresses gave security to those who would reside within them. So not only were they making buildings where others were looking at them and admiring them, but they were providing security. Now your popularity has gone even way higher. Now why am I saying this is because when you become popular for one gift of Allah that is given to you or to me, the more popular you become and the more needed you are by people, the more of a natural arrogance you have within yourself. It's natural. It's natural. Popularity will bring arrogance. And this is one analyzation we do with the story of Sayyidina, Hud alayhi salatu salam. And it's not just to do with strength and power and might. It's to do with anything. They say that if you are a person of knowledge, if you know a lot of things, and you become popular, naturally you've got to be very careful of kibr. Like Iblis, the story of Adam alayhi salam, and Iblis that we did, he had knowledge. He knew a lot of things, and that's why he became arrogant. In this story, it's not about knowledge, it's about the might and power. So for example, in our world, what it would mean is that people who become popular for, I'll give you a common one, you may laugh at this, but people who actually go to gyms and they really, build themselves up, they love to pose. One of the things they love to do is they pose, they'll tense their muscles and pose like this and pose like that and pose like that, and they'll want to show their biceps, the backpacks, the this, that, and whatever else it is. They love to do that. And within that, they've got to be very careful that they don't fall into pride and arrogance, which naturally, it might have. Now, pride and arrogance is a difference. Pride is when you yourself, pride in Arabic is ujub. So, pride is when you yourself feel proud about your own self. Arrogance is when you feel so proud and so high that you start to belittle others and you start to deny the truth, or you start to ignore the truth, belittle others, and it's to do with you and others. When that gets to that, that's istikbar. That is now arrogance. These people, they had arrogance. It got to that level. Pride is something, natural pride, when you're just proud of yourself, like in a good way. So for example, I'm proud that I, got A star in my exams. That pride, now that's a happiness. That's fine. You're not trying to feel that you're better than others in any way. But the wrong type of pride is when you're doing it and you kind of have this kind of sense of self-pride where it's like, I'm so good, I'm so great. And, almost in the head, without them saying it or bringing it to their mind, it's almost like, so many people haven't got what I've got. Right? That's the kind of wrong type of pride. The right type of pride is what Sulaiman a.s. would have done, which is to then have so many ni'mas of Allah, and then to say, لِيَبْلُوَنِي أَشْكُرُ أَمْ أَكْفُرُ. Allah is testing me whether I should show gratitude to Allah or not, and I'm saying Alhamdulillah. وَقَالَ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي فَضَّلَنَا عَلَى كَثِيرٍ. They said, both him and his father, they said, Alhamdulillah, praise to Allah that He has given us so many bounties, and He's given us preference over others. That's the right type of pride, where you feel good about yourself, but you're saying that Allah is the one that's given to us. So anyway, coming back to these people, and what the point that I'm making is that any gift that we've received from Allah, and the more gifts that we receive from Allah, and the more popular we become because of the need and necessity, the more of a position it makes us easily to be a victim of having arrogance inside us. And the next thing after that is that a person then starts to manipulate others, Groups are formed, of these type of people. So you've got to understand how sociology develops. You might have, for example, in this masjid here, you're going to have a certain category of people who will always mingle with one another. There'll be a regular, people who come to your salah, regular 5 days and so on. They mingle with one another. They say salam, they say wa alaikum salam, and they're always, being in each other's companies. There'll be another set of people who will mingle with one another and get to know one another because of their profession, the professions that they have. But there will be another one that will mingle with one another because of their status. Now here you go to a different level. Professions, backgrounds, cultures, these are the reasons why people, will interact with one another. Friendship, same job, same place, same neighborhood, people will mingle with one another. But there's one particular thing which I want to mention, and it's more or less around these people that we're discussing, is when you have a status in the society, a class, a certain class that you get to, you then mingle on those classes. So you've got, right now in England, you've got like a middle class, you've got a working class, you've got the working class, and then you've got the middle class, and then you've got the upper class. We're talking about getting to a high status. If you get to that high status, then there's a different type of mentality that you create. What has happened is, for example, even in politics around right now, the people who have ended up in parliament, the people who end up in power, they have to have certain given qualities, right? So, for example, they have to be educated. You can't just end up uneducated in those places, fine. You have to have a certain type of, education, and these people would have gone through that. But then you would have had to go through, through and live with a certain group of people to get to these positions and go work through the system. So you work through your local borough, and then so you become an MP. But once you get into that, into becoming an MP, you've got a certain mentality that overrides the pattern of thinking within the people, within the parliament. And you can almost see them as a board of people. The same happens in any civilization, and it happened with this community of people. With Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam, and you'll see the same I discussed in Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, and you'll see the same that I will discuss with other prophets, is Allah called the Mala'um min qawmi. Now Mala'um min qawmi is a group of people who are the hierarchy of the society, who are like the councillors, who are like the council, the shura, the council, the board, the committee. They are important people, or the people who make rules and regulations, concerning that community, or the people who are regarded by others to be, high-ordered thinking people. This is the mala. This is the mala that Allah talks about. And they were the people of Ad, who had not only the power and the prestige and the pride and the arrogance and building all of these monuments, but they were regarded, out of all the giants, they were regarded as the most supreme of the giants, right? Their thinking capacity was way beyond the average giant that was amongst them. And in our societies, in our crowds, we have the same thing. Now, having mentioned that, what you've got to understand is that no sooner does Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam give da'wah, these people, they influence the mind of the rest of the people around them. They influence the qawm, they influence the whole tribe, they influence all the different tribes that are around. And what you've got to understand is the same thing is happening today, brothers and sisters. No sooner do we say something, but there's a hierarchy, a mala in the media that is, quick to snap out on us. No sooner do we say this, there's a mala somewhere in the parliament that will snap. There's a mala somewhere in some local government that they will snap on. Because these are, people who've got high, intuitive thinking. And they are not your common people. So, what you then see is, this is the pattern, natural pattern that settles in, that people get needed, wanted, they get promoted, they get higher and higher until they sit on top of others, and these are the people that will influence. Now, most of those people, unfortunately, have denied the Prophet's messages. This is a given fact, and this is from the Quran, I'm telling you. Most of those people, unfortunately, have denied. Some of them have believed, but their arrogance, their pride and so on, and their status and all that around, and the people around them and the company that they live in, does not allow them to, it's very difficult for them to accept the truth. So in Surah Al-Ahqaf, Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentions, He says, this is ayah number 21 in Surah number 46, He says, وَاذْكُرْ أَخَا عَادٍ, remember your brother, remember the brother of Qawm Aad. Remember Hud alayhi salam, who was the brother of the people of Aad. Now, interestingly, He says Akh, which is brother. It's the same thing that Allah said with Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, Akh. Why? Because though they are kuffar, now this is a very important point I'm going to mention here. They are kuffar, they are disbelievers, they are people not believing in the message of Sayyidina Hud. But Allah says, Akha Ad, their brother. Allah said in the Holy Quran about Nuh alayhi salam, Akhuhum, he was their brother. Akhuhum, about the qawm. And it's very clear, and He used that about Thamud as well. And He said, Salih was Akhuhum, إِذْ قَالَ لَهُمْ أَخُوهُمْ صَالِحٌ. When their brother Salih said, أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ, don't you have fear of Allah? Don't you, have the internal mechanism of being aware of Allah? Saying Akh to a prophet, talking to a people who are not believing in his message, what we learn from here is that we've got to treat them, the disbelievers, as people whom we care for, not whom we disregard. There shouldn't be a feeling of filth and disgust and a filth of, and a feeling of looking at them as almost like, who cares about you? No. There's got to be a relationship in order for us to invite them to this. Now let me give you an example. If you were to do anything out there, with anyone out there, if you didn't have your good feelings about them, why should they even, we're talking about humanitarian grounds, why should they even listen to you? Anything, let's just say anything whatsoever. So for example, you go out there and you're just trying to ask a person for, signs to where you should go, or the map, or, just give you directions. Now if that person doesn't have humanitarian love for other human beings, why should he even give you any concern? Why should he even look at you and say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 seconds of my time trying to explain to you how you get to this place? That humanitarian love that Allah has endowed this to all human beings, that we've got humanitarian love. Those who are deprived of this, Muslims or non-Muslims, they are deprived of a very great khair and goodness. Deprived of very great, khair and goodness. And it's very sad to see that some Muslims have been affected by this. We're not saying that, look, just because they're kuffar, I know there are kuffar there, and they are, some of them are enemies, and some of them are trying to make mockery out of us all the time. Some of them are even trying to kill us, and so on and so forth. But what you've got to remember, in the beginning of the story, and when Allah opens it in certain places of the Quran, He says their brother, the brother of Ad, which is Hud alayhi salam. Akhuhum Hudun, their brother Hud, who said to them these words, أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. When Allah says that, He's trying to say that when you approach them, you've got to have that feeling that I am sympathetic, just as I would want my own brother to be saved from the fire, I would want these people also to be saved from the fire. Alright, so that feeling should be there, and without that feeling, my brothers and sisters, there is no real da'wah, there is no real invitation, because those humanitarian grounds are gone. Now Allah reminds us that He came to the place of Ahqaf, and then He says, وَقَدْ خَلَتِ النُّذُرُ. Many warners had preceded Him. مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ. Came after Him and also came before Him. أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهِ. They said this message, do not serve any other, do not worship any other except for Allah. إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. I fear a great day of punishment. I fear that for you people. I want you to take heed and to listen to me right now, and to listen to my message and accept it. When Allah says this part, Allah ta'budu illallah, inni akhafu alaykum, there's two things here. One is that He's telling them a negation, and then He's given affirmation. He's telling them to stop whatever else they're doing, and He's given them direction. In da'wah, you can't do the one only. If you just negate and negate and negate, it becomes negative da'wah. You've got to affirm as well, and you've got to talk about Allah Azza wa Jalla, the good things in da'wah, and the good things people will get in terms of receiving what they should receive. The other thing here is that He talks about Qiyamah straight away, Day of Judgment, and He warns them. Da'wah is effective with the remembrance of Allah in there and the remembrance of the afterlife. So even if you're going to tell a druggie or someone who's on the wrong path, one of your friends, whoever it is, or somebody who you'd like to keep as a friend, who's on the wrong path, Allah's told us from this ayah, and many ayahs, this is not the only ayah, there's so many ayahs that are similar. At-tadhkir billah, to try and remind people with the remembrance of Allah, and at-tadhkir bil yawm al-akhir, to remind people through the Day of Judgment, is something that is very effective and even effective today. These people continued in their way, and when He said to them to only worship Allah, they said to Him in response, and this is not the mala, this is not the council, this is not the people. This is in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah number 66 to 68. قَالَ الْمَلَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَوْمِهِ. Those people, the council, the higher body, the body of people who are in the hierarchy, from His people, those who denied from amongst them, they said, إِنَّا لَنَرَاكَ فِي سَفَاهَةٍ. We see you in some form of foolishness. Safaha. They called him a fool, and safaha can also be seen as stupidity. Meaning that how can you even make this comment? How can you even suggest this thing? وَإِنَّا لَنَظُنُّكَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ. And they said that we regard you to be a liar, to be one of the liars. Now, when they said this to him, they called him foolish, a fool, and they also said that he's a liar. And this is real mockery in the face of a prophet. His response was, Ya qawm, O my people, laysa bi safaha. I'm not a foolish man. I'm not a foolish man. وَلَكِنِّي رَسُولٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. Now, subhanallah, look at what we learn from this. If he had said, I am not a foolish person, because a foolish person does this, and foolish, don't call me foolish, and he kept on going on about that, it gives them a platform to carry on calling him foolish, stupid, whatever else they wanted to add to that. It gives them a platform to do that, because you've entertained their line of thinking. He said, I am not foolish, but straight away he affirmed something about himself. He said, Rasulun min Rabbil Alamin, I am a messenger. What needs to be said to a lot of people who are saying a lot of swears out there about our Prophet ﷺ on the internet, other things, and they will carry on and they will increase. And may Allah Azza wa Jal guide them to the truth. What we should say is, instead of saying the Prophet wasn't this, and the Prophet wasn't that, and entertain the debate. Instead of entertaining the debate, it is better to establish what he was. To say he was such a wonderful man. He was Al-Amin, the trustworthy. Just to write these things on the internet, to say these things to the media. He was this, to affirm what he was. This is what Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam is doing. He's affirming what he is, not continue with the debate. There's a book called Don't Think of the Pink Elephant. What did I say? Don't think of the pink elephant. What's in your mind right now? Go on, what's in your mind right now? A pink elephant, isn't it? You didn't have a grey elephant in your mind, did you? When you say don't think of a pink elephant, you've already thought of a pink elephant. You imagined an elephant is pink. It might be wrong to imagine it, but you did imagine it. Right? If I entertain the debate and I say Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't a child molester, wasn't a pedophile, wasn't this. Now once I say that, you will think, na'udhu billah, people who are non-Muslims will think of him as that. It's natural, just like the pink elephant. You're not supposed to think of the pink elephant. So why did you think of the pink elephant? People will naturally do that. So what you're supposed to do is entertain the debate in the right way. You take control over the debate. And this is what Sayyidina Hud is teaching us in Dawah, which is affirm what is the truth. So you tell them what they should be thinking about. Rasulun min Rabbil Alameen. I am a messenger from the one who has provided everyone, and has provided you as well. So the one who provides you has sent me to you. So the whole scenario now has changed in what he's trying to get them to think about. And then he carries on. أُبَلِّغُكُمْ رِسَالَاتِ رَبِّي. I'm here trying to deliver messages from my Lord. وَأَنَا لَكُمْ نَاصِحٌ أَمِينٌ. And I am for you a very sincere person, and I am a trustworthy person. Subhanallah. Look how many things he affirmed. He started off by saying, لَيْسَ بِسَفَاهَةٍ. That's the only part he said that he wasn't a foolish person. So that's only one part of it. But straight after that he said, look how many things. He said, Rasul, he's a messenger. He said, the fact that he's who's delivering a message, أُبَلِّغُكُمْ رِسَالَاتِ. He's affirmed that he's come from the Rabb, who is Allah Azza wa Jal. He's affirmed that he is nasih, he's very sincere, and he's affirmed that he is also trustworthy. 5 things inside here. Now, I've already said to you nasih. When we covered Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, I told you that it's very important to be sincere to the people that you give da'wah. So I'm not going to cover that again. But there's another sifa, and there's another quality that this Prophet adds on, alayhi salatu wasalam, adds on to what he's saying. He's saying Ameen, which is trustworthy. If you or me cannot be trusted by a people, then it is detrimental to the message that we're giving to them. More than anything else. Like if we were people who couldn't speak to them, imagine that I didn't have the way to articulate myself to all these people, to give them da'wah. That is not as bad as not being trusted. If I cannot be trusted, then that is a great obstacle in them accepting something from me. Now trust itself has many layers. Trust itself has many layers. When Sayyiduna Hud alayhi salam is giving them da'wah, he has had a previous life with them, a long life with them, where he's built that trust. He's not talking to an alien people. He's not just suddenly gone into a different city and said, hey guys, my name is Hud, by the way, and I would just like to tell you that I'm a messenger, and I'd like you to understand that you should be following these ways. No. He's talking to the same people who he has lived with all his life. And Allah has done this with every single messenger that came on the earth. That they gave da'wah to the very people who lived with them. Why? And this is one of the miracles of them being a prophet. If you want to know signs of who's a prophet, this is one of the miracles of the prophet. Is that if me and you, imagine me or you, any person here who's listening to this, if you could turn around to your people, to your own family members, your neighborhood, the people who you lived with all your life, if you could turn around to them and say that I have never, done anything wrong, I've never done anything wrong, you would not be able to say that, because by nature, by human nature, you would have done something wrong, because you're not a prophet. You would have made some kind of mistake, you would have lied somewhere in your life, you would have got caught in some kind of muddled yourself up somewhere. It will have happened. With prophets, it never happens. To prove that point, he made them live amongst their own people. Because if they suddenly lived elsewhere and they came somewhere else, it wouldn't have the same effect. He made, like Rasulullah ﷺ, 40 years live amongst his people before he became a prophet. And with every prophet, he made them grow up, and they seen the qualities, and they had so much trust in them. It went to the highest level of trust. So if I sort of meet you right now, you might see my face, you might think, okay, he looks like a trustworthy person, and then you carry on. But then over time, when we deal with one another, one after another, when our dealings carry on, then the trust builds up. when you get to the highest level of trust, you've got a power over the people you talk to. Because what Sayyidina Hud is trying to say here is, he's trying to say that you said I'm a liar, and I'm the most trusted amongst you. How can a liar be the most trusted? I mean, they wanted to say that you're just lying now to us because you've told us to worship only Allah alone, because they were idol worshippers. But they saw their flaw within their own argument. How can he be so trusted yet be a liar at the same time? And they knew what they were saying was just made up to try and make others divert away from him. He then carries on. This is in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah number 69. He says, أَوَ عَجِبْتُمْ, are you surprised? أَنْ جَاءَكُمْ ذِكْرٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ عَلَى رَجُلٍ مِّنْكُمْ. Are you surprised that, are you sort of, bewildered with the fact that a man amongst yourself has received this message, this reminder from your Lord, and is now coming to you to tell you the message. Now here's the flip side. The flip side of you staying with the same people is they're going to treat you as a normal person. You stayed all your life with them, fine, you're trusted, fine. But the flip side to that is, we knew who you all your life, we saw you grow up. Who are you? You're just same as us. What are you trying to say now? You're someone great. When did you suddenly, go to the skies and come back down with a message? We didn't see you disappear. How did you suddenly become a prophet? Now this is the flip side. And this happened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This happened to Sayyidina Hud and many other prophets as well. And they had to then say this natural thing, which is, are you really surprised that this is the case? Why did he say that? And what do we learn from that? What you've got to learn is from this, and this is natural human psychology, natural way the brain works, is that whatever you get accustomed to for a long time, breaking away from that becomes the thing that you will detest. No, I'm not going to do that. People don't do that. Like for example, all your lives you've seen people, you've seen men all of a sudden, you've seen men all your lives in a certain way, which is what? Which is, you see them maybe with a beard, or they might shave the beard and so on. But when you see the abnormal, when you see a woman, and some women have this, they might have a little bit of a moustache. Now straight away you're going to laugh. And you're going to say, woman with a moustache. Well, yes, there are certain women that might have that. There are certain men, unfortunately, they look very feminine. They look very feminine with sometimes the way they dress, or the way they might have their hair, the way they might act, and the way they might behave. Can you imagine a man who's got long hair and he's always going, and he's, there are certain men who do that. Now, you're laughing because it's the abnormal. It's not the normal thing that you're accustomed to. And anyone who's not accustomed to anything that's norm, when the norm breaks, people find it strange. It's like, what? What is this? How can it be? What are they talking about? Until it becomes a norm. Now there's a great danger to this. The danger is when a sin becomes a norm, you've got to really fight against the whole thing. Like, I was just discussing with, I know inshallah some separate time we'll cover this, but it's kind of becoming normal for certain men, out there to try and have feelings for their same gender. It's becoming normal for certain men. And the more time is going on and the more people are making this a common thing, the more people are coming out and saying that, I was born like this. I have always felt like this. I've always had my attraction to other men. And the thing is, let's just, one Imam said, he said, look, if you develop an attraction for your neighbor's wife, or even your brother's wife, if you just naturally felt an attraction towards that, are you just going to say, Allah created me with this, I better go to my neighbor's house and just express my feelings and say how I feel? You going to do that? Are you going to say to your brother, brother, I'm sorry to say, but you just got a lovely wife there who's creating a lot of feelings in my head, and I just can't help myself. I think, brother, you better step out of the way because I've got, feelings too. Are you going to do that? You're not going to do that. Just because you had feelings and they were there naturally inside you, doesn't mean that it's a license from God to try and go out there and do what you want. What is happening here? Just because a man feels the same thing about a certain man feels that about other men, and just because a certain woman might feel that about other women, doesn't mean that you just go out there and do what you want. These are things that may occur now and again, but you've got to do something to control, yourself. So the lesson that we're learning from here is, Sayyidina Hud is saying that just because it's not normal to you people, just because it's not normal to see a person amongst yourself now warning a message, delivering a message of warning to yourselves, are you just going to reject this message on those grounds? وَاذْكُرُوا إِذْ جَعَلَكُمْ. Now, what he does is, Sayyidina Hud uses a third tactic, and all messengers use three things. All messengers used three things to try and remind. And these are the three principles of da'wah. One is that you give da'wah by reminding people about Allah. Another one is that you give da'wah by reminding people about the Day of Judgment. And the third one is you remind people through the gifts that Allah has given them. These are three major parts of da'wah and major roots of da'wah to get people to think along the message of haqq and truth. So he said, وَاذْكُرُوا, remember, إِذْ جَعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاء, when Allah made you people the vicegerents and the people who took over others before them. مِنْ بَعْدِ قَوْمِ نُوحٍ, after the people of Nuh alayhi salam. Allah gave you a reign on the earth. You are ruling the earth right now. Now, for us, what do we learn from this? We learn, subhanallah, all of us, Allah has given a status in our lives. Somewhere or another. Some way Allah has made you given you some control on this earth. Whatever control Allah has given, whether it's in your own house, with your own family, whether it's at the workplace, whether it's in your social sort of setting, wherever Allah has given you a sort of dominance over others, you have to see that as Allah giving you that. There's no way me and you would be able to have this without Allah giving it to us. So he said, remember that gift, what Allah has given you. Then he said, وَزَادَكُمْ فِي الْخَلْقِ بَسْطًا. Allah has increased a great amount within your progenies. Us having children and being able to have children, subhanAllah, what a great gift. When you meet a man, I just met a great individual when I traveled to India. A great individual who has got so much money, so much wealth, and he's not stuck for money and so on and wealth and so on, but out of a good 30 years of marriage or 35 years marriage, Allah only gave him one son. That's it. That one son is going to carry on wherever he's got. And even then, you think about it, if that one son was to, if Allah was to take him, then he's got nothing left. He's got no progeny left. Now it's only Allah's blessing if some of us have received, brothers and sisters in the family, some of us have got our own children, every single child is a gift of Allah, and however we increase, that increases from Allah as well. So he's reminding them with that. فَاذْكُرُوا آلَاءَ اللَّهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. So he says, remember the gifts of Allah, the many bounties Allah has given, so that you may be successful. Remembering sitting down, and I want to just say this before we carry on. A lot of people, they feel sometimes distant from God. They feel distant from Allah. One of the ways of feeling close to Allah is just to sit down and just think about the gifts of Allah. That's it. So you spend 5-10 minutes, or you spend 15-20 minutes, however you can, just sit down in peace, in silence, in your own quiet time, and just remember, okay, Allah gave me this, and Allah's given me this, and Allah gave me health, and Allah gave me some wealth, and Allah has given me a status, and Allah has given me a job, and Allah has given me family, and Allah has given me a house, and Allah has given me the eyes to see, and Allah has given me nice ears to listen. I haven't had a problem with my hearing, I haven't had a problem with my seeing, I haven't had a problem with talking, I don't have a problem with my neck, and I don't have a problem. Go through every element you can think of. I can move my hands, so easily. I can walk so swiftly. I can run when I want. I don't have a problem with, my sleeping. I don't have a problem with my eating. I don't have a problem with this and that. And then Allah has given me food on the table every time when I've needed it. Allah has given me drink whenever I've needed it. Allah has made me, have many happy moments in my life. And Allah has given me X and Y and Z. And you start to go. And even when you think about sort of food or the place you live in, to go into each one. And Allah gave me to eat from all these varieties. And Allah gave me to live in such comfort, and think about the comfort itself. When you start listing and detailing and going through that in your mind, there's a different, the mind itself, subhanallah al-azim, will start breaking up. Your heart will break up to Allah. You will feel a closeness to Allah that you haven't felt before. And I'm telling you this, please try this. When you do it again and again, you start to see, subhanallah, you feel, what has Allah done for me? How much has Allah given me? And Allah did, and then you say to yourself, did Allah have to give me all of that? Did He really have to make me be born or be in this country when I could have been, in a different country somewhere else? I mean, I just traveled to India, and you only see certain gifts of Allah when you see the opposite. Unless you don't see the opposite, you won't see the gift. So, in this country, right now it's the cold started, right? The winds have started again, temperatures dropped, right? And this is normal England. 9 months we're going to live now with this until the next summer, and then we're going to just look forward to a few days of the sun, and we're going to say, Ya Allah, please, give us a nice summer again, right? You're going to crave for that, because normally in England, clouds, grey clouds, and, rain. And the forecast today is going to drizzle. The forecast today is going to light showers. The forecast today is going to be this, heavy rain. The forecast today is going to go, forecast rain, cloud, rain. And you live in this all the time, and you think, I wish I was in the Mediterranean, wish I was in this country, wish I was there, right? And it plays on your mind sometimes. Went to India, and when I just went there for about 10 days. It was only 32 degrees. Only 32. Now, 32 degrees in England is like a fantastic day. It's like you have a hot night, summer day, but the difference is, 32 degrees here would be with wind, with a bit of a breeze, bit of air. The humidity and so on would not be, so high. But 32 degrees in India, I felt like I was in an oven. The air was so hot. It was just so hot, so sweaty, so, it was almost like you can't breathe. You've got hot air all around you all the time. Now, when I stayed there for a few days, and then after 5 days, suddenly Allah gave rains. He sent the clouds in India, and the rains came. Wow, Allahu Akbar. And we're in the i'tikaf, and it's hot, and you're trying to fast as well all day, and then you're doing tarawih in the night time as well. Allah still makes it easy, Allahu Akbar. It was easy to make the fast. I have to say that. Allah made it easy, and that's one thing, Allah makes it easy to do His ibadah. But after 5 days when the rains came, Allahu Akbar, you should have seen the smiles on people's faces. The temperature dropped slightly, became a bit cooler, and I said to myself, man, the ni'mah we've got in England, I will never think again twice about that ni'mah. Right? These 9 months that we're having, subhanallah, it's nice and cool, guys. You can work, you can think, you just put the heater in your house, you're fine. If you're in heat, you've got, even when you put AC on, there's a problem, because it gets your throat after a little while. It gives you a headache, the heat gives you a headache. The heat makes you not be able to work, right? I sat on the train next to some Indian person, and straight away when we start having a conversation, and he said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from England. And he said, wow, he said, you're so lucky. And I thought, what is he trying to say? He said, you're so lucky. He said, you don't have to get up every day, and you don't have to think about your day. And I'm thinking, what is this guy trying to say? This man on the train next to me travels about, I think, 150 kilometers. In 150 kilometers out of Delhi every weekend, just to learn a language, which he's going to learn to try and find a job, which that job will try and get him a bit more extra money, which he's looking forward to move to a Western country. Now, when you sit next to him and he's telling you his whole pain, his agony, what he's going through, and what he's doing, and how hard his life is, you sit there and you think, Subhanallah, how easy Allah has made life for us. Now what I want to say to you is, with this ayah that I've just talked about, and him saying, فَاذْكُرُوا آلَاءَ اللَّهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Think about the many gifts of Allah, what Allah has given you, so that you may be successful, you may succeed. You know, one of the ways of us trying to get ourselves close to Allah is just to realize, and go and see opposites. You know, if you want to know the ni'mah of your eyes, simple. You know, either go and visit a blind institute somewhere, or act blind for a few minutes in your house. You can do this. You can, basically, you're in your house, just close your eyes, right, and just feel your way around the house. Yeah, just make sure you don't fall down the stairs, right, and then come back to me and say, you know, Sheikh, I've got this, you know, this broken leg because of you, yeah. So make sure you don't do anything, you know, or near knives or whatever, you know, you do. So you can do that. You can act, you know, helpless. You know, you just can get a chair or something and act as if you might, you know, may Allah forbid this, but people who are in wheelchairs, you can act, or even just go and visit people who are sick and see the gift that Allah has given you, and, you know, not given them, and praise Allah for it. And there are hundreds of things that you can, you know, the moment you go out there, you can see a lot of people. And the biggest gift, Allahu Akbar, is just look at the people who don't have Iman. And yes, we want them to have Iman, but that itself is such a great gift. You know, when you think about all these gifts, it makes you come close to Allah Azza wa Jal. And then it makes you stay away from sin, stay away from the thought of this dunya, this world. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam is trying to get them to think about this. What we will do, inshallah, we'll carry on with this from Surah Ash-Shu'ara and many other verses that have been mentioned with this, and analyzing this story. Inshallah, we'll carry this on next week. Jazakumullah khair wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.
الذكر علم ونور الحاملات سنا ونور والرسمات هنا سرور يا حلوة تلك السنين
وكلا نقص عليك من أنباء الرسل ما نثبت به فؤادك وجاءك في هذه الحق وموعظة وذكرى للمؤمنين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Firstly, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, this is a second session with Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam. And Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam is a prophet that came after Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam. And we've already established that this is the part near Yemen, in a part called Ahqaf, between Yemen and Oman, and Hadramaut, which is another section around Yemen. This is the part where they were giants, they were great people that Allah had created, given them a lot of power. And then they got up to worshipping idols, and then they were also very mighty on the earth, and they used to show their arrogance. So we've done one session, and this is the second session, and we're at the ayah of Surah Shu'ara, which is the 26th juz of the 26th surah of the Quran, ayah number 128 to 135. And this ayah, or these ayats, they talk about Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam telling are you building On every hill they used to build something that was to do with a monument, a building that others would like to look at, which gave them the pride and the prestige that I talked about last week. And they used to also make certain buildings that were long-lasting, and they used to have pride in living them because it was almost like it would give them a long life. So he said to them, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَخْلُدُونَ, as if you're going to live here forever. Now there's a lesson to learn from this. What we learn from this is that the more security a person gets in this dunya, the more they are attached to this dunya, and the more they yearn to live in this dunya. That's the lesson that we learn from this. People who are living in mud houses, people who are living in non-secure places, they have they've got worries just like us. We've got worries. Our worries are a big mortgage, and it's going to be about a big bill at the end of the month, or a big bill at the end of 3 months, or is my job secure? Their worry is their paddy field going to give the rice this year which they've planted? Is it going to stay or not? Our worry would be with our kids and the school and the education and the SATs and the GCSEs and the college degrees and university degrees. Their worry is, will his son live? Will he get a son first because he needs him for his paddy field? And will his son live? And will there be enough sons to look after his few, hens and sheep and goats or whatever? What a few things that he might have. His worry is about the rainy season. Will the rains fall again through his roof? His worry is about the cold season. Will he be able to bear the pain again with his wife living through the cold? Their worries are about the daily food rations that they're living on, or what can they get for the next meal. Whereas our worries are something else. But worries is on both sides. But what happens is, the mentality of a people when they live with something that is permanent, they almost have an effect of a permanent life. A permanent, long life. No one actually believes that they're going to live here for a permanent sort of status. But it does have an effect on your mind. One of our ustads said that those people who eat from the plates made of clay, in the traditional, back in the days, even now in certain rural places of the earth, they eat in bowls and plates made of clay. So he said naturally those people are humble who eat from those. He said the people who eat from tin plates, the people who eat from plates that are not made of the earth, but are made of like the china plates and other type of plates that are more sort of shiny and so on. They'll have a different sort of feeling. Even those people who cook in those pots that are made of pure clay, and those people who cook in tinned sort of stainless steel pots, they have a difference in them. The early ulama said about the prophets that every prophet, alayhimu salatu wasalam, every prophet at some point of their life, Allah made them look after sheep. Every prophet at some point of their life, Allah made them look after sheep. And the reason was because when you look after sheep by their nature, they're humble. And sheep are hard to look after as well. You need a lot of patience, because one wanders off here, one wanders off over there, and then you've got to keep on having constant look after, looking over these sheep. You can't just drop off to sleep yourself and just say, everything will be fine, because your neighbors and others feels that those landlords will be coming to you very soon and saying, look, they ruined our crops and they ruined this and that. So you've got to be on constant watch. Now, why is Allah doing this to prophets? It is because He wants them to be those who have patience for their ummah, patience in the face of adversary. He wants them to be humble in their nature. He wants them to be vigilant. He wants them to be, people who are responsible, because you've got to be very responsible with sheep. And all these things create the very basic characteristics that the prophets need to deal with their prophethood once they become a prophet. And all prophets, including our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they never kept things with them. They kept on giving things away. I know many of us are on different levels of this, but all prophets, if you look at, especially our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he kept on giving away and giving away and giving away until you see on his deathbed, he had only a few things which he left, and they are counted items which he left in his possession at the time of his death. And these things that he left, they are even like a pillow, and pillow made of palm fibers, and things of maybe a couple of coins. Even at the day or 2 days before his death, alayhi salatu salam, he remembered a few coins that were under his pillow, and he told Sayyidatuna Aisha radiallahu anha to go straight away and to give that in charity. Why did they do this? And why is it that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even said, he said, Allahumma, he said, ahyini miskina, make me live as a person in need. Wa amitni miskina, and make me die as a person in need. Wa wahshurni fi zumaratil masakin, and resurrect me and make me be on the day of judgment. Gather me amongst those people who are in need of you on the day of judgment. Now it's a beautiful dua, because he's saying that he wants to be a miskeen while he's living, a miskeen at death, and a miskeen on the day of judgment. Why? And the beautiful thing about this dua also is that he didn't say that make them masakin, he didn't say that make the masakin part of me on the day of judgment. He said make me part of the masakin on the day of judgment, which is a great value to those people who are in need of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now what happens is, when you secure yourself, so you've got a secure job, you've got a secure house, and you've got a car, and you've got your phone, and you've got your life, and you've got everything else running nice and fine. What happens is, this security makes one forget about the afterlife, and it makes you forget all about death and the reality of death. And it makes you feel that, without you even saying it to yourself, your subconscious mind feels that, I'm here for a long time. I'm here for another good, you don't even think about how life is going by. So Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam, when he's talking to these people, he's reminding them that the more you are building these fortresses, and you're building these great monuments, and you're building these buildings where you are, you're living in those compounds, they're high up on the mountains and the hills, it's given them a sense of arrogance even more, that we are here, we are people who are people of, a permanent and a long life. Right? That is the point of saying that. And to mention that, on that point, just one more thing, is that Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us in the Quran about takathur, which is to try, to have rivalry between ourselves, to try and increase more and more. The more power and things and assets, and especially with land, assets and buildings, some of the most arrogant people on this earth, I'm sorry to put it this way, if anyone's listening to this and you're one of those, but some of the most arrogant people on this earth are landlords. People who've got land, people who've got assets, because they're a lot more secure than others. With Ad, they were people who were already like giants. They themselves had divided between themselves, like, I've got this part and you've got that part, and so on. And each one was taking large amounts of lands and building on them. And each one was then priding over the other in what he was building, which was much greater and more stronger than the other person who was, down the other village, or down the other mountain, or the other valley. Now, he then added, Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam then added, he said, وَإِذَا بَطَشْتُمْ جَبَّارِينَ. When you strike as people who are arrogant, people who are showing off their might. Now this was another thing that they had, because what had happened is that, you imagine, now there's a big lesson to learn from this. These people are big. Now not everyone was created as giants in their time. This was the part in Yemen that Allah had created giants. Another one that Allah did with Salih alayhi salam was in the Syrian sort of region, and they were also like giants. Allah did not repeat this for everyone. Allah did not repeat this for everyone. So when these people came across others, they found them to be small human beings. And even between themselves, they had this extraordinary amount of strength and build to challenge each other in fights and in actual one-to-one combats. And what happened is that whenever they came, they had so much arrogance. There's a big lesson to learn from here, and that lesson is that you see this in our day and time in the 20-year-olds in the late teenagers, the 20-year-olds, those especially who are part of gangs, and those especially who go to the gym. Right? I'm not saying every person who goes to the gym is like this, please don't get me wrong. Alright? There are a lot of good people who go to the gym, and going to the gym is a good thing anyway because you get an exercise, that's fine. But being part of a gang or a gang culture or part of the street life and then going to the gym and coming out of the gym like with a thin t-shirt on and a tight one on, right? When it's probably autumn time or winter time, and walking around, you're down the street as if, you got so much space around you to use. It's all my space. Anyone come here and I touch them, then you're dead. Alright? So they'll walk with that kind of impression that, I've got something to show, right? And I've got this extraordinary amount of strength. And when they see another person with the thing is, the clashes don't come normally when a person like that, he's well built, he's got the body shape, he can do, bench presses like, 2-3 other people can't do together. This guy can lift that many weights. Now, when he comes across and someone like me, he sees me on the street, now he wouldn't sort of, do that to a person who's religious, whatever. They don't pick on them anyway. But even if I didn't have the beard and so on, I'm just a normal guy who's walking down. They don't have no qualms with that person. They have, tell me if I'm right or wrong. The moment he sees another man who he doesn't know, who's also got a thin, tight t-shirt on him, who's also like out there built, who's also going to the gym, who's also from the street life, who he doesn't know, the moment he sees him, is it peace or war? Tell me. Tell me, is it peace or war? Peace. Huh? No, they're not friends. They're not friends yet. They're not friends. If he doesn't know him, it's like, okay, he's going to eye him out. Am I right or wrong? They're going to like eye each other. It's like, yeah, okay. He knows he's there, and this one knows he's here. And they're going to like, okay, it's like two lions. It's my territory, bruv. I rule this den. Who in the world are you to show me your muscles in front of me? It's an instant reaction. And when they come in close contact, you can almost guarantee that if nothing else, it's not going to be like, yeah, assalamu alaikum, or like, hey bro, how you do? Where you from? Yeah, I'm cool, you're cool. It's not going to be that. It's going to be like walking past each other. It's like, yeah, what you got? What you got? What you got to prove, right? They might not clash with each other on the first day, but you can imagine if they stay in the same area for a little while, there's going to be a bust up. Somehow, something, it's like, yeah, what do you want? What do you think you are? That's it, and it will start. And few of these boys together, you can imagine, now this is just one guy to one guy. Imagine like there's 4 of them coming out of the gym, and out of another gym there's another 4 coming out, and every day they're passing by each other, and this guy, thinks he's big and he's tough. What they're going to do? Well, it happens in schools, it happens on the streets. The men to men, what they're going to do is they're going to start a fight. And when they start a fight, it's going to be to properly punch this guy up and beat him up so bad that his girlfriend's going to leave him because she can't recognize him anymore. Right? That's how bad he wants to beat him. Now that's the kind of thing that they will be thinking and so on. So Ad, when they saw each other and they were giants, they wanted to have a one-to-one. They wanted to sort of fight. And the fighting and the arrogance amongst them was at a high. So Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam is telling them, Fattaqullah, have fear of Allah. These same ayats in Surah Al-Shu'ara. Have fear of Allah. Think about the consequences of what you guys are doing. وَأَطِيعُونَ, and obey me. Now don't think that Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam was a small man talking to these giants. He wasn't. He was also their size. He grew up amongst them. So he was their size. If he was a small man talking to a few giants, I think they'd just like say, whoops, I didn't see him, just stepped on him. Oh, sorry, sent him to the next life really early. They'd finish him off. But he was also their height and their size. And he says to them, وَاتَّقُوا الَّذِي أَمَدَّكُمْ بِمَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Have awareness of the one who extended his favors on you. You are people whom Allah has given, and we are people whom Allah has given a great amount of height, strength, and we've got the build over all other people. So He's extended. And not only that, أَمَدَّكُمْ بِأَنْعَامٍ. He's given you animals. He's given you baneen, children. وَجَنَّاتٍ, He's giving you many gardens. وَعُيُونٍ, and He's giving you springs. Now, this is a specific ni'mah of Allah. He's saying to them, why mention springs? Because in Arabia, if you think about it, it's very rare to get gardens that are green and to get springs that are running beneath those gardens or in between those gardens is very rare. And whoever has got that is a lucky individual in the middle of Arabia. Not even maybe a couple of handful of people can say that they've got those things in the Arabian or Peninsula. So he was reminding them, then he said, "Inni akhafu alaykum adhaba yawmin azim." I fear for you people a day of punishment that is going to be really severe and really great and magnificent in its nature. So I fear for that. Now, instead of them being a people who are going to now say, well, he's right, we shouldn't be arrogant and so on, the nature of these people was that they were too much into it. Now, one of the things that happens is, it's the peers and the grouping and the pressure that happens, which is something I mentioned when we covered Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam's story, but I'm going to mention it in a different way. Right now, if you look in the media, if you look amongst MPs, there's a big debate going on. There's many debates that come along and go across. But one of the things going right now is on the niqab issue. Right? Should niqab issue, should it be banned, should it not be banned? Now, what happens is that the pressures amongst themselves is so much that each one fears stepping out of line. The moment you step out of line, you are a loner, you are a schmuck, you are whatever else they'll call you, you are a person who's an outcast, you're a person who's joining the other party, you are doing the abnormal, and you will get criticized and you will get mocked at for stepping out. Now, it's not just them doing it, we all do it. As human beings, you want to conform to your culture, to your people, to the norms and habits and behaviors of everyone around you. You even conform to their accent. Allahu Akbar. If you think about people, just look at England. We've got people up north, in Manchester, they speak differently, slightly from the Newcastle people, and they speak, the Geordies in Newcastle, and the people in Birmingham, they speak differently from those people who are in London, right? So within one single small island, you've got so many different sort of accents. When you move from one city to another city, do they just say, he's just normal, he's talking normal English, or do they find you a bit funny? They find you abnormal, right? They find you funny, they think, why is he speaking? He's a northerner, or he's a southerner. He's a northerner, or he's a southerner. And you find the difference, and then what do? Well, if you stay there long enough, you naturally adapt to that. You will start speaking like them. And I've met people, in fact myself, I've been born and brought up in the Midlands. And when I'm here, I speak like this, the way I'm speaking, and as soon as I go back and see my family in Walsall, I'll be speaking in a dialect that fits them. And it just happens so naturally. And I don't know how I even do it, because even when I'm on the phone, I don't realize it. My wife tells me that, you just switched your accent slightly, your tone, it just switched when you spoke to that individual. I said, alright, sometimes I'm aware of it, sometimes I'm not aware of it. Now, it's so much demanding, the peer pressure, and the thing is that you will adapt to every single part of it. You will adapt to it, and you will not want to step out. Allah's created us like that, so that we can get on with one another. Now, what's happened here is, the same thing is going on. All these giants, they're together, and they don't want to step out. So they will start making any excuse to get back at Sayyidina Hud. So one of the common things that, subhanAllah, Allah mentioned this, and there's a massive lesson to learn from this, because it's happening in our world right now in a different way, and I'm going to explain to you how. They said, Ya Hud, oh Hud, and they call him by his name, Hud. This is in Surah Hud, Surah number 11, ayah number 53 to 57, if you want to write the reference down. So they say, Ya Hud, ma ji'tana bibayyina. They said, you have not come with any evidence whatsoever. There's nothing clear as an evidence to why we should prioritize you over ourselves. Why should we? You're just the same as us. They then added on, they said, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَارِكِ آلِهَتِنَا عَنْ قَوْلِكَ. Just because you told us to leave these gods, we're not going to leave them. Just because you said it. You think, because are you just going to tell us to do that and we're just going to do it? وَمَا نَحْنُ لَكَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. We're not going to even believe you. So 3 things. They said, no evidence. Second thing they said is that, just because you think you're just going to tell us to do it and we're just going to leave it. And third thing they said is that, we don't believe in you. We don't even believe in you that you're telling us the truth. Now, these are common things which many prophets face. But the next thing is the one that has the big lesson for us. They said, إِن نَقُولْ إِلَّا اعْتَرَاكَ بَعْضُ آلِهَتِنَا بِسُوءٍ. What we are telling you, forget you telling us, we are telling you that some of our gods got so angry with you and your behavior and what you've been saying about them is that they've cast a spell on you and they've done something evil to you which has made you like this, O Hud. See, you are a fool and you've lost, because they said safaha, they said call him a safi or a person who's foolish. They said you're a fool, you're a madman, because of our gods, they have cursed you. And that curse has fallen you. So Hud, you want to be back to normal to us? You stop saying that about our gods. You be the same as us. There'll be nothing wrong with you, Hud. At the moment you're talking a bit of hula baloos. So now you can imagine, now he's alone, he's trying to get them to believe in him, and they switch it on him. This is exactly what is happening and what happens. You know, when you're in the field of da'wah, sometimes you feel you're absolutely alone. You're trying to change a people, you might be trying to change a family member, or families. So let's say your whole family is one way and you're a different way. And they say to you, you know what, since you became practicing, you lost your job. It happens, guys. People come to me and tell me this. They say, you know, I got accused by my family that I'm the only practice one, I'm praying my salah. They say, since you did that, this happened, and that leak happened, and that other. You know, you're a bad omen, guy. Change yourself to what we were before. Change yourself, change your habits. What we were all normal before. Why did you have to become practicing for? Because you became practicing, all these things happen. Sometimes reverts, they have a real big problem when they come into the religion and their families say this to them. And it really kills them inside. And they need to look at this story and they need to think that, you know, there's nothing wrong with you. Is those people are making false accusation against you. And sometimes what happens is, and the common one is, you know, you're just a normal individual, just doing something normal. It doesn't even have to be that you're practicing. It could be anything normal you're doing. And because you stepped out of line with your family in something, and you're not listening to them for some reason, they say, somebody must have done jadoo on him. Somebody must have put black magic on him. Somebody must have given him the evil eye. Somebody must have made him be like this because of the way he's reacting. And you get accused. And then they say, okay, let's take you. Where should I go? Let's take you to see someone. You are possessed. You are a person who's under influence. We need to snap you out of this. So we'll take you to a mullah who's going to basically put some chili up your nose and burn something and make you, see all these numbers in front of you, right? And sprinkle all this water over you and beat the shadow and the jinn out of you. And they come to me and they tell me this. I'll give you a typical case. This town we're in, there was a girl, and she's still around in this town, and she's part of my academy. She's left now. This is years back, right? She left. She left about a decade ago. But about 5 years ago, she phoned me. I don't know how she got my number. She must have found so many people to get my number, but she phoned me. And she said to me, sir, she said, I really need to ask you something. I said, what? Said, my whole family, they're telling me that I've got, because she said that I actually fainted a couple of times. A normal girl, 22 years old, doing her studies, and she just fainted, right? A couple of times it happened. Now her whole family especially being Asians, and on top of that being Bengali, and being from Sylhet, they say that that's it. Why should a nice looking girl, 22 years old, not married, suddenly faint twice? This is extraordinary, this is it. She has been possessed, someone's done black magic, that's it. We're taking you to this guy, to this masjid, to that masjid, and so on. Now, she was freaked out, saying that, look, I don't want to go, I don't think there's anything wrong with me, and I'm completely fine, and I don't see anything, and I'm not, I'm not hallucinated, I'm not whatever, just leave me alone. They said, no, you better come, that's it, you got no choice, you don't know what's going to happen to you, you might actually be taken by the jinn, you might take you up to a tree and convert you to a jinn. Allahu Akbar. Now, how they make these things up, right? But I'm serious, they make all these things up. So, she said, I've told my family that I've got a teacher of mine, and if he tells me I need to go somewhere, I will go, and if he tells me I don't need to, then I won't, and you guys just base it on whatever he says. And that's when she called me, that, please help me here. So I got in contact with the family and I said, okay, let me see what the situation is with this girl. So she was in hospital at that time, Middlesex Hospital, went to visit her there, her family were there. I told the family to stand aside for a little while. And I had a, one-to-one with her, and I said, tell me, is there anything that is abnormal in your life, whatever, how are you seeing things, are you this, I asked all the normal questions, and she's saying, no, nothing, I'm completely fine. So I'm bewildered myself. I'm thinking, what is wrong, why is this girl, and the doctors can't find anything either. That's the another, and when the doctors can't find anything, bas jadoo kar liya na. It's got to be there somewhere. We'll find the crook wherever he is, and we'll send him one as well. So now it's getting even more frustrating, because the doctors are doing all these checks on her blood, on this and that, and saying we can't find anything. So I found my sheikh in Bangladesh, and my sheikh straight away said, Allah gives certain people who are close to Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah gives them a firasa. Even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about this. He said, ittaqu firasat al-mu'min. He said, be aware of the inner psyche of a believer, the inner insight of a believer, because he sees from the light of Allah Azza wa Jal. So I phoned my sheikh, and my sheikh straight away said to me on the phone, he said, she's in love with someone, and she doesn't know how to break it up to her family, because her family is going to say no. And because of her stress, that she's never going to be able to marry this person whom she's deeply in love with, she has blacked out a couple of times. And straight up, I'm not making any of this up. Sheikh, I got off the phone to him, went back to Middlesex Hospital, right, family said, stay aside, one-to-one with a girl, and I said, straight up to her, I said, who in the world are you in love with? And she went, red from here to here. And she blushed. And she said, why do you ask such a question? How do you know? And I said, look, ittaqu firasa al-mu'min. I asked the sheikh said this, I'm just being straight up with you. Who in the world? Then she broke up. She said, well, it's a guy, he's 23 years old, I'm mad in love with him, and I really need to get married to this person, I really need to, and I don't know how to break it up to my family, and my family's not going to accept it. Everything the sheikh said over the phone, she confirmed it. This is just 5 years ago. She confirmed it, and then I asked again the sheikh, and the sheikh said, okay, tell her not to worry, whatever, tell her to read certain things just to calm herself down and so on. And I told the family, all I said to the family is, look, there's nothing wrong, she doesn't have to go to see anyone, there's no jinn, there's no jad, there's nothing, there's no black magic and so on. And then, alhamdulillah, now, a few years later, alhamdulillah, she's completely fine. Because in the end, I had to convince her that, look, you've got to give up. Either you give up this person, or you're going to go through another few blackouts and so on, and it's going to stress you out. So alhamdulillah, she, in the end, gave up that relationship. Took some time, but she did that, and alhamdulillah, she's completely back to normal now. Now, what I want to say to you is that people do go through these phases in their life where others are accusing you of something which you are not. And there's so many of them saying the same thing to you. Sometimes you could even go mental in their house because so many people are saying the same thing to you. I had this recent one case where one individual, he had to leave the house. He had to look for another friend's house. In the end, he got in contact with me and he said, this is very recently, this is within the last year. He got in contact with me and said his family are driving him crazy. I said, what for? Because they want him to marry this particular girl. And if he doesn't get married to her, then that's it. It's all, they're going to blow his whole life up because he's not agreeing to that. And he doesn't want to get to marry to her because she's ugly. He don't find her pretty. I'm not saying women are, in general, there are a lot of beautiful women out there, but he just didn't fancy her, and they're putting so much pressure on him that you better just say yes, Now, then they start accusing things. They're saying that somebody must have done something to you and so on. And same case, same scenario. So what I want to say to you is that from this, they said to Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam that you have been bewitched, you've got a curse on you, there's an evil omen about you, our gods have done something to you, and that's why you're behaving like this. So now you've got to listen to his answer. Subhanallah. Now, this is a prophet. Alayhi salatu wasalam. This is, we've got to the whole reason why this is here is that you learn from them. So much pressure on him that all of these people are ganging up on him, and they're saying, it doesn't matter what he says, he's just cursed. He's a man who's cursed, Do you go and stay near a person who's cursed? Do you live next to a person who's cursed? Do you listen to a person who's cursed? No, a man of things they must have said to him. So then he said, Inni ushhidullah. He said, I make Allah a witness. Washhadu, and you be my witness as well. Anni bari'um mimma tushrikun, that the thing you are calling me to, I am completely acquitted of that. The first thing he said is that Allah is my witness, that I'm never going to be. Now you're trying to put so much pressure on me that you're trying to get me to agree to your devil worshipping or your idol worshipping. You're trying to get me to worship all of these idols, which in an essence is devil worshipping, because you're listening to the devil. You're listening to the devil. Whether you worship him straight up or not, you're listening to the devil. So he said, you want me to be pressurized to do this? No, I put Allah as my witness, and I make you my witness, that I'm completely acquitted of that. Now the first thing I want to say to all of you lot who might be under this pressure any time in your life is, you just tell them, if you feel you're in the right, you tell them there's no way. With absolute certainty. You can see how much certainty is in this. He first says, Inni. Inni is like, surely myself. Then he says, Ushhidullah. Before he even says what he's going to say, he said, Allah is my witness, I'm saying this. Washhadu, and you remain my witness, I'm saying this. Anni bari'um mimma tushrikun, that I'm completely far away from whatever you people are doing. First thing. Second thing he says, Min dunihi fakiduni jami'an thumma la tunzirun. He said, besides God, whosoever you want to find to try and go and worship to them, because that's what they're doing. They're going to their idols, they're saying, oh, idol of this and idol of that, we want you to curse Hud. Now what happens is, they make it now part of their worship to curse the Prophet, and that's what they were doing. I just want to say to you that it's very unfortunate, right? I'm not saying to you that all Shias are non-Muslims. I'm not saying that to you. There are Shias who are Muslims, there are Shias that are non-Muslims. It depends on their Aqidah. But it's very sad to see that some Shias, the whole religion is based upon cursing the Sunnis. It's really sad. It's a really sad state of affairs that you need to make your religious beliefs that you just curse somebody else, and that's how you actually elevate yourself in your deen. So on this point he said, Min dunihi fakidun. He said, you take whoever else you want besides Allah, and you use them to try and plot against me. So go and get all your gods you want, jami'an, all of them. Thumma la tunzirun. And he said, whether they are gods or others, bring as many people as you want to go against me. Bring your entire force on me. Thumma la tunzirun. And don't even give me a chance to have, a step ahead, or don't give me a chance to have, to be aware of any plot that you're making. Just do what you like. Inni tawakkaltu Allah. Why I'm saying this to you is because I have put my trust in Allah. Inni tawakkaltu ala Allah. Rabbi wa Rabbikum. My Lord and your Lord as well. Now subhanAllah, there's a big message here. He just doesn't say, my Lord versus your gods. No. He says, my Lord and your Lord versus your gods. Right? There's a difference. It's like, you think I'm going to bring the one Allah who just I'm on side of, and you're on all these gods together, and we're going to have a battle. No. He's saying, my Allah is your Allah, by the way. Right? You know what you want to say, subhanAllah? You want to think about these, some of these, sometimes I think like this, because I read it in one of the scholars' sayings. He said, some of these arrogant people who are in power. They're in power. Whether it's some of these large countries, some of these large generals and armies and whatever else, and going countries and doing whatever else they want, right? Just put it in your mind and say what that scholar said. What did he say? He said, the God that makes me urinate every day makes you urinate as well. The God that makes me go to the toilet every day is the same God that makes you go to the toilet every day. What's the difference between me and you? Doesn't matter how much of a big guy he is on the earth. Doesn't matter how many people he's got under him, how much influence, how many billions of dollars he has and trillions and so on, how much investment he has and how much power he has. The God that makes me, a simple man, go to the toilet, makes that man, a simple man, go to the toilet. There's no difference between me and him in the sight of God. And the God that will put me 6 foot down is going to be the God that will put him 6 foot down as well. He's not going to escape that. Another scholar said, who in the world are you to show your arrogance when you passed through 2 private parts? One through your fathers and a second one through your mothers to get to this world. You passed through 2 private parts to even be born. So who in the world are you to show your arrogance? Subhanallah al-Azim. You think about it. So, these tyrants and others, when the prophets taught us that you don't look at them in any way that they have got any power. Inni tawakkaltu Allah. I put my trust in Allah, who is my Lord and your Lord as well. It's the same Lord who's feeding you, who's feeding me. Who's giving you all the treats that you've got and giving me my treats that I've got. If you've got any dignity lost on your side, it's Him, not your gods. مَا مِن دَابَّةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهَا. Subhanallah. Then he stamped it down. He adds on. This is not just a simple statement he's making. He's saying every creature that crawls, every beast that moves, every creation that has an ability to make some maneuver, إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهِ. My Allah has got their forelock in His hand. The forelock is this part of the hair. Now I know my hair is short, right? Now imagine my hair was a bit long and you could actually seize it. Now this is the forelock, this part here. And the Arabs have a saying that in different languages you have different ways of expressing it, right? So in English you might say, he got him by the neck. Yeah, he got him by the neck. Right? Or some others might say, he got him by the... I'm trying to say that. Yeah? They might say that. It means that he's got no way to escape. Right? Even in Bangla they say, Shashid Durmun. Like basically I'll get you by the part where I can strangle you. Right? So in Arabic, what they say is, Akhidum binasiyati, which means one who holds the forelock. Now, whoever's got the forelock has almost got the whole body under him, and he's got his most precious part of the body, which is the head, in his grip. So they, when they say that, they mean that you've got no escape. Just like you might say, he got him by the neck. He just got him, in a position that he couldn't get out of. So every creation that crawls, that moves, that has the ability to wither, my Allah has got its forelock in His hand. Meaning that you can't escape. Now this is a beautiful thing. I remember the Sheikh said, the other day we were talking about Bangladesh and the situation in Bangladesh, all these, whatever is going on. And I said to him, Sheikh, what is it that, all this is happening and so on. And there's a lot of frustration. You think about it, country after country, you've got a lot of frustration. He said a beautiful thing. He said, and you cherish these things for life. When a person who's elderly, who's wise says this, you cherish it for life. He said, batil, which is falsehood will never be able to escape the hukum of Allah. Falsehood will never be able to escape the command of God. Never. So no matter how much they're doing, right now, the whole of whichever Western world countries that they're trying to plot against, whatever Middle Eastern country and whatever happening within the Muslim countries and whichever generals and coups and whatever else is going, just look at them as batil, falsehood. Whatever they're doing, they're still within the command of Allah. They can't escape that. So if Allah willed that they can't do a certain thing, they will not be able to do a certain thing. And that's a great satisfaction for the believer to know. That you can only harm me as much as my Lord has written for me to be harmed by you. Besides that, you can't harm me anymore. So if you're going to give me a broken nose, and you're going to give me, broken teeth, and you're going to give me a broken arm, that's as far as you can go. But if my Lord didn't write that you're going to kill me, you can't kill me. And if my Lord didn't even write that broken arm, you can do whatever you want to break my arm, you can't do it. And if my Lord didn't even write that you can't break my nose, then you can't break my nose. Doesn't matter how hard you punch me and how hard you try and attack me, my nose will not break, because Allah is the one that has the command over any falsehood and anyone else that is there. So he stated that. And then he said, Inna Rabbi ala siratin mustaqim. My Lord is on the absolute straight path, which means that my Lord has got full justice, full command, full power, and he's got full power, and he exercises his authority over all of his affairs of whatever is happening in this world. And here in my place of Yemen, what you guys are doing, my Lord has got every power over you people. And I remember one scholar said, beautifully said, he said, the believer, he sees everyone. And imagine right now, right? Just look around the people, right? Now we just see individuals. He said, can you imagine if each person had a link, just imagine an invisible link from their head and the body, the whole body going upwards. Imagine every single one's head, there's a link going upwards, right? So these are link that's connecting his eyes, his ears, his nose, his face, his mouth, connecting all his brain, his nerves, connecting his heart, connecting the pulse rate of his heart, connecting his arms, his vessels, his veins, his joints, his limbs, his bones. Every part of the body has got, this kind of a link that's coming out, and you find that it's getting, it's all joining up to one link and it's going up. Then he said, imagine every human being has got that link. Every creature, every animal has got that link, right? And that link goes direct to Allah, meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal, He's got the power over the vein, the cells. It's His power over the brain, His power over the skull, over the arms, over the shoulders, the body, the legs, and all of that. And every vein, muscle, brain, thought, idea is linked up to Allah. And that they are within His powers, so that they can't really do anything without His will. He says the true believer sees every creation of God like that. Imagine you see your enemies like that all of them are under His hukum. So that's how the Sahaba must have felt, going into the battlefields and thinking, seeing what? All of these, they're under the command of Allah. How many am I going to get down, right? And if one of them gets me down, well, I had my link to Allah, right? And it was my turn through the fate of God that I fall at this moment, so who cares? When my moment comes, I'm going to fall down. Before that, let me try and show my Lord how many I can take down. This was the mentality behind them, which made them, so audacious when they went ahead. So anyway, Sayyidina Hud a.s. mentions that, and then he says, after saying, Inna Rabbi ala sirat mustaqim, he says, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا. So you turn around, you reject my message, فَقَدْ أَبْلَغْتُكُمْ مَا أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ إِلَيْكُمْ. I have delivered my part of my job of giving you a message. I have completed my duty. So I'm not at loss. Now what we learn from here is that when you're in a situation where you've got people against you and they're trying to switch you to their ideas and so on, you've got to be strong enough to say, look, I've done my duty, I'm doing a good job here. Sometimes you can't see the other end. But you've got to convince yourself and tell them that your duty is being done. If you're on the truth, carry on speaking the truth. Even if falsehood is in its multiples, like rain around you that surrounds you, just carry on. And that's the message that we get from such anbiya. And then he says, وَيَسْتَخْلِفُ رَبِّي قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. He said, tomorrow, all of you people are going to be replaced with another nation. Now, isn't it true, guys, you know, sometimes you're in a place, right? Sometimes you're in a place, it's really, really funny. We're here in this masjid right now. We're in this masjid right now, yeah? Who was here before us? Anyone tell me? Anyone tell me? Before the masjid, yeah? Synagogue. It was a Jewish synagogue, yeah? So this place was a Jewish synagogue, and they worshipped. And then who knew that we would be in power here and get this piece of land? But before the synagogue, I don't even know who owned it, who earned it, who had it, but I'm sure some Christians probably had it. And before them, this part of the earth, did it exist before that? Of course it did. Who had it? Well, some Saxons had it. Some Romans had it. Some, I don't know, some guy under King Edward had it. Edward the second or third or fourth or fifth or whoever you want to call him, James the whatever, under him some guy had it. Right? There were some landlords 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 600 years ago. Now before them there was others, before them there were others. And you think to yourself, if you now compare yourself to the Romans, you think the Romans had this land. Where are the Romans today, guys? Come on, tell me. Where are the Romans? In the museums. That's where the Romans are. They're nowhere else except for the museums. The Saxons, the Vikings, the whole lot of the history that they had in this country, they're all in history books and in museums. They're nowhere else. And if they discover something from the earth, they end up again in the museum, and their monuments and the artifacts end up in the museum, and that's it. History, my friend. Well, this is what Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam was trying to tell his people. He's telling them, you people, you're so arrogant today. Don't you see that Allah's going to give this part of the earth, He's going to put it into the hands of somebody else after you, that your whole generation is going to get wiped out. You people won't even exist. Not even your name or whoever will exist unless if Allah wills. Nothing will be there. Don't you see that another nation, and after that another nation will come, and after another nation will come. Who knows how many other people will occupy this land, because this is Allah's land. And the whole of the earth is Allah's land. And Allah chooses who He wants to give His parts of His lands to. Then He said, وَلَا تَضُرُّونَهُ شَيْئًا. He said, none of you will be able to harm me by the least. Do what you want. Bring on all your gods. إِنَّ رَبِّي عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَفِيظٌ. Why you can't harm me is because my Lord is the one who's overall protecting on everything. He protects everything. So therefore my Allah is protecting me at this moment. You can do what you want. Now what we learn from this is the sheer iman that Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam had. How strong he was in saying all of these words to them in the face of them saying that he's an evil omen, he's been cursed, he's got black magic on him, or the gods have have cursed him or done something to him. The sheer iman he's got and the faith he has in Allah and the strength he has in standing in front of these people, that's the strength Allah wants to take. He wants us to take a lesson from such a thing. And like all prophets, this wasn't one day. My brothers and sisters, this wasn't one day. This was day in, day out. Day in, day out. They had to put up with all these different things that they were saying against them. And ourselves, we're going to go through certain phases in life where you're under pressure, day in, day out. Now, one thing I want to tell you is, and I'll end this session with this, is that, under such immense pressure, people get stressed, people get depressed, and people crack. People actually crack under pressure. Their brain, the mental abilities, it cracks. what happens is that they feel helpless. A normal person, what happens, I'll tell you how depression sort of happens, is that first you're trying to convince, and you're burning all your energy out and trying to convince them about the truth. Imagine you're trying to give dawah to some people out there, whoever it is, family, friends, whoever it is, or it could be even, a lot of people have come to me and talked about workplaces. Sometimes in workplaces you've got people who are oppressing others, then what they do is they switch things on you. So you're talking about the truth, they're talking about falsehood. And I'll give you a typical scenario. There was a person I know that went into the drug rehabilitation sort of program. He's working with the council, and he's trying to get people off drugs. So it's a whole, it's part of the borough, part of the council, and trying to do that. Then what he does is he gets inside, and he's got a lot of energy to burn. He's telling people, telling all his peers that this is how we're going to get him off drugs and so on. Yeah, everything's all good. It's all paper, everything. Then he realizes that what's on paper, these guys are doing something different. And he's, what's going on here? We're the people trying to get them off drugs, and you're the people in charge of this with me, and you guys are not doing your job properly. So he finds out that, subhanallah, these guys, they are going against their own paperwork. They're not going into the areas where drugs are, and there must be something going wrong. And then he finds out that they've got a deal somewhere. So the guys who are in the office, in the council, have got a deal somewhere not to go in certain areas. The drug barons, they must pay them off and said, we'll give you this much cash, backhander. We'll give you this backhander as long as you basically don't come into our area. So there's less invigilating going on in those areas. There's more going in other areas. So he sees all of this. Why are you not going into this area? I know there's drugs being sold there. And they're not doing that. Then what happens is that he finds out that some drugs that were seized are now missing. Hey, what happened? Where did these drugs go? And it's a typical story. The drugs went back, resold back to the drug barons. This happens, alright? This brother that was involved in this, he's now at the top senior level, going in there and giving everything he's got to try and make others aware of the dodgy tactics and the mishandling of all of this that's going on. What do? They gang up on him, alright? This is a true case, I'm telling you. They gang up on him and they make him look like the weirdo. The one that is, he doesn't know how to work properly. He's got an anger management problem. Anger management problem. He's losing it. He's talking too loud. He's a bit rude. That's what they'll do. They'll play emotionally. He's a bit rude. He's saying things that he shouldn't say. He should say different. Okay, there might be certain things, but he's got to understand. He doesn't understand. All these accusations against him. And what do? They flip people around, and then in the end, the main people who are right at the top, they put certain bad, false information in their ears, and they switch them around this guy. What does happen in the end? They're firing. When they fired him, he went into severe stress. And his stress went into some kind of depression. Now what happens then is that you're helpless, you can't do anything. And along the way, he even found that some police were perhaps, mishandling the whole thing as well, the project as well. So he went to, he dropped down. What then happens is that because you feel helpless and you feel you can't do anything, you then start talking to yourself. Right? You start saying, no man, this is bad. You try to talk to as many people as you can. The problem then is, the more people you talk to, and at the same time you're helpless, what happens is that this thing kills you even more. If you're able to talk to people and get to a solution of your problems, then you come out of stress and depression. But if you are deep in this and nothing's happening, all you're doing is talking to people, you're digging yourself in sand and quicksand and taking yourself deeper. And that's when serious depression comes. And that's when you need to go on tablets, you need to go to the hospital and so on. Now, luckily for this brother, someone came along and started giving him some medication and so on. And luckily also, he started to come out of it through other ways and so on. But what I want to say to you is, I've seen people who've come to me, taken advice off me, and they go through it. And I warn them. And the best thing for anyone to do is what Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam did, which is you say, you guys can do what you want, all I know is my Allah, that's it. That's the only way you can save yourself from depression and stress. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter, like taking antidepressant drugs. You know what it does? It just numbs a part of your brain. That's all it's going to do. It's going to numb certain parts of your body, And that's all it will achieve. It won't get to the root of your problem. The root of your problem is your mind. You need to get your mind straight, focus, strength, strong belief. That's what Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam did. He had his mind, his body, his whole psyche, his inner, his outer, he's all strong. You can do what you want. I've got my Allah. My Allah is on the straight path. My Allah is with justice. My Allah protects me. My Allah, I put my full trust in Him. My Allah controls you people. My Allah controls all the people, all the creatures that move around. My Allah has full power over everything. What can you guys do to me? Go and do what you want with me, because I'm not going to worry about you. I'm going to still just put my trust in Allah, my thoughts in Allah, and that's the only thing that can keep you calm. That's the only thing that can keep you calm. That's why Allah said in the Holy Quran, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." Only through the remembrance of Allah will minds be settled. Only through the hearts and minds will be settled, only through the remembrance of Allah. And with that, I finish. Inshallah, next week we'll continue with the third part of Sayyidina Hud alayhi salatu wasalam. Jazakumullah khair wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.
الذكر علم ونور الحاملات سنا ونور والرسمات هنا سرور يا حلوات تلك السنين